How would you like to add an extra 10 miles an hour on your forehand without any loss of consistency? Well, that is exactly what you're going to be mastering in today's video, because we're going to be comparing Carlos Alcaraz with both Djokovic and Nadal, and you're going to learn the #1 technical secret that Carlos uses on his forehand acceleration that is significantly different from both Djokovic and Nadal, and is the secret to leveling up that power while still maintaining full consistency. The best part is, as we dive through each element of his forehand, you're going to be provided with step-by-step drills and exercises you can use the next time you step on the court. So let's jump right in. The first step to you mastering the Carlos Alcaraz forehand and instantly increasing the amount of effortless fluid power that you're generating with your acceleration is called the unit turn. Now, the unit turn with Carlos Alcaraz is very different from the unit turns of both Djokovic and Nadal. So let's go and pull out all their footage and notice some key technical differences. Now, the first and primary element that is different from Carlos Alcaraz than these other players has to do with how far Carlos Alcaraz takes his unit turn back while still holding the racket with his left arm. If we assess Djokovic and Nadal, you'll see that when they take their racket back with their unit turn, they're typically going to release from their left hand at about eye level. So their racket is going to release at about eye level. Versus if we assess Alcaraz, you'll see that his racket doesn't release until his elbow is all the way back in line with his shoulders, and the choke of the racket is towards the right of his head. Now, the benefit of this is that now his right arm is going to be in a really optimal condition to just fluidly drop and then accelerate going forward into contact to generate that very fluid racket head speed from natural momentum of the racket. So the key checkpoint that you want to focus on in order to master this the next time you step out on the court is, in the first drill, what we're going to do is you'll split, execute your unit turn, and then stop where your hand will be to the left of your head, just like that. So you should see your palm of your hand, right, through the choke of your racket to the right of your head. So the key element there is that it's significantly farther back than what these other players are doing. So the key checkpoint, you'll split, rotate the body, and then stop just like that. Once you get comfortable by executing that motion, then go ahead and grip your racket very lightly with your right hand, where you'll then split and then execute that unit turn position. Now, you're gonna have that racket in the correct rotated position, but it's also key that you get the elbow orientation correct. Notice also the difference from a rear angle. If we look at Alcaraz versus Djokovic and Nadal, Alcaraz's elbow is going to be significantly higher than these other top players. Now, we're going to dive into that in more detail as to why he has that high elbow position, because that's what's going to enable him to accelerate in the very different way that Alcaraz does versus the more conventional stroke of Nadal and Djokovic. And interestingly, this acceleration that you're going to learn is the same acceleration that both Tsitsipas and Rublev use on their forehand, and is potentially a completely new technique that we're going to see more and more from players coming up through the ranks. So I'm really, really excited. So to recap, drill #1, you'll split and just rotate, getting used to holding and stretching that left arm across, seeing the racket just like that. Drill #2 is you're then going to hold, stop, and make sure that that elbow is in line with the shoulder, holding just like that. After you implement those drills, you're then going to be in a great position to either be fed by a coach, a friend, or just as you're rallying. Now, I'm really excited to let you guys know, if you want access to over 15 follow-along drill videos, even more advanced than the ones we just covered, you can click the link in the description down below and get access to the Forehand Transformation System, where you won't only learn the cutting-edge, science-backed techniques of the best players in the world, but you're going to be provided and guided through a revolutionary new system of drills, exercises, and feedback using accelerated learning techniques like isolation and time slicing that's going to allow you to develop these techniques into your unconscious muscle memory at the fastest possible rate. So you want to click that link in the description. All right, world-class athlete. So now that you understand exactly how to execute the Carlos Alcaraz unit turn, let's now dive into his acceleration, where we're going to break down that one key technical secret. All right, world-class athlete. Now we're gonna master that Carlos Alcaraz acceleration, which I'm telling you right now, after I applied to my forehand using the same drills and exercises in the forehand transformation system, it immediately feels like you're just getting so much easy power, and I'm so excited for you to master it. So the best way to understand it is to look at Carlos Alcaraz's acceleration from a side angle. So let's go ahead and pull out Carlos Alcaraz next to Rafa Nadal. And what we're gonna do is, as they're gonna accelerate, let's go ahead and draw a line tracking the path of their acceleration. Excellent. So now that we have those two lines, let's go ahead and merge them together on a graph, just showing the orientation of the height of the racket relative to the court surface. Now let's also do this with Novak Djokovic. And you'll see that Carlos Alcaraz is doing something that's very different than both Djokovic and Nadal. You'll see that what Carlos Alcaraz is doing is, rather than setting his racket down and then accelerating up and away from his body, he's actually, because of that unit turn position that you just mastered, he's gonna start his acceleration traveling down and away from his body. Now, this is super critical to understand and is really, really gonna transform your entire forehand. So in order to understand, like, why is Carlos Alcaraz doing this on his forehand, what's the benefit, we really just have to assess this from an anatomical, a muscular, and a biomechanical perspective. So let's begin with the anatomy. The anatomical difference between the Carlos Alcaraz acceleration and the Nadal acceleration is really just one anatomical motion, which is that when Carlos Alcaraz accelerates, he's gonna be performing what's known as shoulder extension, where the arm is gonna be traveling down, just like that. So shoulder extension, traveling down and forward into that contact point. Now, why might this be a benefit? Now, the reason why this is a huge benefit and is gonna give you extra power is if we now assess this from a muscular perspective. So Carlos Alcaraz is performing this extension. What muscles power shoulder extension? There's a lot of muscles involved, but the primary muscle that is the big difference maker is that it's tapping now into this big lat muscle. So essentially, when you're accelerating, now, rather than just tapping into the shoulder and the pec from the Nadal acceleration, you're gonna now get access as well to the lat muscle, which is gonna allow you to then generate more racket head speed. And we also know it's a principle of physics that it takes more energy, right, to get something in motion than it does to keep something in motion. And further, if by accelerating an object that's already accelerating when there's friction, you can actually generate more racket head speed. So if we assess it from this physics level, biomechanics, muscular, and anatomical understanding, it makes so much sense. It's like, oh, I see. So by accelerating down, now I'm gonna generate more inertial racket head speed. So the racket's gonna be traveling faster. And I'm also going to be generating power from my lat, which is obviously a bigger muscle. And when you piece all that together, that's why Alcaraz is just bombing these massive forehand winners in his matches against these players. It's because of this one technical secret. So I'm really, really excited. Let's go ahead and dive right in now to some follow along drills that you can use. And again, if you want access to over 15 of these that are designed with the cutting edge science of learning, click the link in the description and just watch the video on that page talking about the forehand transformation system. I've had over 250 students now go through it. They've been blown away. So check that out. There's a 30-day money back guarantee. So just check out that page. I really want to encourage you to do that. So the step-by-step drill to follow. Now that you've mastered your unit turn position, what you want to focus on is, as you execute your unit turn, actually go ahead and watch your hand. And as you now do your backswing and accelerate going down, just make sure that the arm travels down and away from the body. So here, down and away, with keeping that loose wrist, keeping that fluidity. And when you accelerate, you should feel, it's like, wow, I'm generating so much whip from that arm going down. And for a lot of players, this is a completely new technique. So I really want to encourage you as well to maintain a patient set of mind and not judge yourself by right when you step on the court, are you immediately able to start generating, world-class forehands? It's a process that takes time that you can accelerate by really trying your hardest and really focusing on trying to execute the technique, but then also making sure you get that feedback, which we cover all of that in the system. So really, really key, watch that right arm, watch it accelerate down. And then what you can do is from here, you can focus on shadow, watch the arm, and then execute a forehand with either your friend feeding you or you just tossing feeds by yourself. The last piece that I really want to encourage you to do, as you're hitting these forehands, you want to record yourself using your smartphone or device, focusing on executing these shots, and then immediately reviewing the footage so you can see, are you actually doing the Alcaraz technique or are you doing something else? That way you'll immediately be able to know and course correct, which is going to give you that breakthrough. Again, we cover all of that in the Forehand Transformation System, which you can get signed up for right now. All right, world-class athlete. So we've covered so much in this video. I really want to encourage you to get out on the court, have that high level of ambition, confidence, optimism, and belief that you can execute this Alcaraz forehand technique. As always, if you guys want to watch more forehand videos, click right here. If you want to master the serve, click here, and I'll see you in the next video. Let's go!